It started with blood. Not literal, but damn close. Her fingers were cracked from typing, her eyes bloodshot from too many 2 a.m. bug fixes, and her soul practically leaking out in burnt-out sighs and empty Red Bull cans. Jennifer had just pulled her fourth all-nighter that week, wrestling with a rogue sync error that would have tanked the demo for Infinia, the software she breathed into existence. The other engineers called it Marcus's brainchild in meetings. They knew the truth. Everyone did. Marcus Thorne couldn't code a hello world without a team of interns and 3 hours on Stack Overflow. She didn't complain, not out loud. She just did what she always did: fix everything, smile like she was grateful, and fade into the backdrop when the CEO swaggered into press conferences wearing the product like it was his tailored suit. Marcus called her mission critical in private, Jen when he wanted to seem relatable during board meetings, but never once had he said her full name on stage. Never once had he called her the architect. Now, suddenly, a live national interview was happening. CNN no less, some shiny morning show where the chairs are fake leather and everyone talks like they're on Xanax. Jennifer was buzzing. Finally, the world would see what she'd built. She assumed, naturally, Marcus would be the one in the spotlight, because Marcus always was. That is, until his assistant, with all the warmth of a DMV kiosk, told her she was doing the interview. At first, she thought it was a mistake. Maybe they meant she'd be prepping the talking points or shadowing him. But no, she was going live, alone, in front of millions. Marcus had decided it was a great growth moment. Translation: he didn't know how half the back end even worked and didn't want to get pantsed on national television. She didn't say no, how could she? Her entire career had been built on yes. Yes, I'll work weekends. Yes, I'll rewrite the documentation by Monday. Yes, I'll pretend I didn't see the intern crying after Marcus screamed at him for asking a question. But this time there was something different. This time her chest didn't tighten from dread, it swelled. If she could survive all those years in his shadow, she could handle 5 minutes in front of a camera. Oh, and by the way, if you're listening to this and enjoying the ride, do a girl a favor and hit that subscribe button. 97% of y'all just ghost these stories like my last situationship ghosted me, and I'm just trying to reach my first 10,000 subscribers without crying into a tub of frosting. You clicking that button? That's my version of getting a gold star in this emotional third-grade classroom called life. Anyway, back to Jennifer. The days leading up to the interview were a blur of corporate prep sessions, media training boot camps, and endless back and forth with the PR team, who edited her every word until it sounded like she was pitching a toaster instead of a revolutionary project management suite. Don't say game changer, it's cliché, they'd say, then replace it with disruptive synergy like that wasn't verbal flatulence. Jennifer kept quiet through it all. She memorized the script. She practiced smiling in the mirror until her jaw locked up. She reminded herself this was her moment, even if it came wrapped in Marcus's strings. But even as she recited their lines, she made a secret vow. If the opportunity opened, even a crack, she'd slip something real through it. A single, honest sentence about the work she did. A name drop for her team. Anything to remind the world that there were humans behind the machine. On the night before the interview, she sat alone in the office, staring at the product interface one last time. The Infinia dashboard shimmered on her screen like a monument to every dinner she missed, every relationship she let crumble, every migraine she pushed through to perfect one more feature. Her mouse hovered over the shutdown button. She didn't click it. Instead, she whispered to herself, let's make them remember who built this. What she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the interview wouldn't just be a product launch. It would be war. Marcus told her while peeling a banana like it was a negotiation tactic. Leaned back in his leather chair, office view of downtown shimmering behind his skull like a halo of lies. Jennifer, I've been thinking, he started, which was always a warning sign, like hearing a rattlesnake say your name. You've got the deepest familiarity with Infinia, he said between chews. And this interview is a great developmental opportunity. That's what he called it, a developmental opportunity. Like she was a junior intern hoping for a LinkedIn bullet point, not the goddamn architect of their entire flagship product. Jennifer didn't flinch, not in front of him. She nodded, she even smiled. But inside, her stomach was rearranging itself into a pretzel. She knew the real reason. Marcus didn't understand the product. Oh, he could parrot buzzwords. Efficiency, integration, enterprise-scale agility. But if someone asked him how Infinia's dynamic workload triaging system actually functioned, he'd blink like a busted Roomba. And with this being a live TV spot, not some pre-recorded circle jerk with their marketing team, he couldn't risk looking like a mannequin in a suit. So he sent his shield, his weapon. The one person who'd never said no to a late-night code review or a Sunday systems stress test. Her? The meeting ended with his trademark "you'll do great," tossed like a dog treat, and she walked out with her spine on fire. The PR team was already waiting outside his office with a packet labeled Jennifer, talking points. They had scheduled hair, makeup, and 3 wardrobe options, none of which involved her usual flannel and jeans. Her anxiety didn't bloom, it detonated. But right beneath it, curling tighter around her chest, was something hotter: resolve. This wasn't a handoff, it was a challenge. and she wasn't about to let the product she bled for get reduced to a bullet point list recited by a CEO who once asked if API was the same thing as a firewall. Jennifer spent the next 72 hours inhaling every possible question they might ask. She practiced in front of her bathroom mirror until her voice went hoarse. She tweaked her slide deck. She added subtle shout-outs to team members in her anecdotes. She adjusted her tone, her cadence, even her hand movements, using every ounce of knowledge she'd collected from years of presenting to rooms full of men who spoke to her like she was a sentient stapler. Because this interview, it wasn't just about publicity. It was about legitimacy. One good segment could bring in the final investment needed to lock down market dominance. That meant full-scale rollouts, government contracts, maybe even international licensing. It meant ensuring the survival of the product long after Marcus inevitably screwed something up and blamed the janitor. But most of all, it meant legacy. Jennifer didn't want applause. She didn't need her name in neon. But she needed people to know that she built this. That Infinia was a product of purpose, not marketing fluff. That under the metrics and jargon, there lived something real. Something human. She was still tweaking her answers at 2:17 a.m. on the day of the interview, sitting on her couch in sweatpants and a hoodie, surrounded by cold pizza and open-code windows. Her cat Moose had passed out on her laptop hours ago. Her phone buzzed with a final message from Marcus. Big day tomorrow. Remember, represent the company, not yourself. No punctuation. No good luck. No thank you. Jennifer stared at the screen until her eyes burned and typed back, understood. But she didn't hit send. She deleted it, and she let the message rot in the silence it deserved. The TV studio looked like the inside of a spaceship that only broadcasted corporate dreams and lies. Polished chrome surfaces, LED panels glowing like alien jellyfish, and a reception desk staffed by a woman with a smile so plastic it could have been 3D printed. Jennifer stood frozen in the lobby for a full minute, gripping her portfolio like it could anchor her to earth. This wasn't like pitching to venture capitalists in some oak-paneled conference room or demoing features to half-asleep board members with golf tee times. This was the national spotlight. Live, unscripted, millions of eyeballs, including, presumably, her parents, her college professors, and every ex-boyfriend who told her she wasn't built for leadership. Production assistant with the urgency of a caffeinated squirrel swept her into motion, rattling off a stream of jargon she barely processed. Green room, makeup, countdown, mic check. Don't look directly into the camera unless prompted. The earpiece came next. Cold plastic shoved into her ear canal like a corporate parasite, followed immediately by Marcus's voice, smug, nasal, and just a decibel too loud. Jennifer, he said, drawing out her name like he was already disappointed. Good, you're on site. Quick reminder, stick to the script. You are here to make the company look good, not yourself. Got it? She blinked at her reflection in the makeup mirror. They'd covered her stress acne, softened the bags under her eyes, and powdered her face until she barely recognized herself. She looked like the idea of a tech executive, polished, safe, corporate. But the woman inside still had chewed nails and a jaw clenched tight enough to crack molars. I got it, she said. Her voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. I mean it, Marcus continued, not letting up. This isn't about your journey. No passion projects. No as a woman in tech detours. Mention the cloud rollout, the international partnerships, the scalability of the stack. No hero stories. Understood? She didn't answer, because what could she say? That her stomach was curling into knots? That her imposter syndrome had woken up early and was now screaming in Morse code? That she had just realized her entire future was balanced on a wire stretched between two skyscrapers, and Marcus was shaking the damn thing? The producer called a 5-minute countdown. Jennifer was escorted onto the set, where the air was 10 degrees too cold and smelled faintly of burnt coffee and high stakes. The host, Sarah Whitmore, offered a warm handshake and a practiced smile, but her eyes were sharp. Calculating, the kind of journalist who could skin a politician in 5 words or less. Jennifer felt seen, too seen. She sat in the chair, straightened her blazer, and tried to remember her posture training. Chin slightly down, eyes steady, hands loose, no fidgeting. Her knees bounced anyway, betraying her. Marcus's voice returned. One more thing, don't improvise, you're not charming enough to wing it. Jennifer blinked. Something sharp shifted inside her, hurt, yes, but also something cleaner, meaner, like the tip of a blade being sharpened against stone. He said it like a joke, but he meant it. He always did, and the worst part, she'd let him get away with it for years. Lights shifted. A red tally light snapped on above the main camera. The sound engineer gave her a thumbs up. And just like that, the show began. The music played. Sarah turned toward her with a wide, camera-friendly smile. Welcome back. This morning we're joined by Jennifer Lin, Senior Product Manager at Innovate Inc., here to talk about the company's newest offering, Infinia, which some are already calling a potential game-changer for productivity software. Jennifer smiled back, her lips moving automatically. But inside a storm was brewing, and she had just stepped into the eye. The first question landed like a snowball to the face. So Jennifer, Sarah began. Legs crossed like a queen on Judgment Day. What is Infinia, and why should the average team manager care? Jennifer's mouth dried up like a sandbox in July. Her rehearsed answer flashed across her brain like PowerPoint slides, but instead of speaking, she stalled. Froze 1 second, too. Her silence stretched long enough for panic to start picking the lock on her ribs. Then her lips moved. Infinia is a lot of things, but most importantly, it's the tool I wish I had 10 years ago when I was leading a 5-person team and juggling 6 roles. Sarah tilted her head. Not the script, but interesting. It's built for the middle. Not the executives with 20 dashboards, not the interns buried in spreadsheets, but the people in between who actually hold the house up. There it was. Jennifer heard herself saying it and couldn't believe it was coming out smooth, natural, like she was finally speaking the language she was born fluent in. The nerves didn't vanish, but they started playing background music instead of hijacking the whole show. Sarah nodded, eyes gleaming. Can you give an example? Sure, Jennifer said, sitting a little taller. Let's say you've got a content team, a dev team, and a client breathing down your neck, and everyone's operating in different time zones and nobody knows who's waiting on what. Normally, that's just chaos with a calendar app. With Infinia, it's one glance, one dashboard. It's like turning your project into a subway map. You can see every train, where it's headed, and where there's about to be a pileup. That got a small smile. Even the cameraman's head tilted in interest. She kept going. Something cracked open inside her, something old and eager. She started talking not just like a product manager, but like a believer. She used metaphors, jokes. She even name-dropped her old mentor, Gina, who once color-coded an entire rollout with sticky notes and nicotine gum. Every time she deviated from the talking points, like describing the UI as cleaner than my ex's conscience, she braced for Marcus's voice in her ear. But it never came. The earpiece stayed quiet. For the first time in years, she spoke without supervision. And it felt intoxicating, like walking barefoot across hot coals and realizing you're fireproof. Sarah leaned in. Sounds like this project is very personal for you. Jennifer exhaled softly. It is. I've spent the last 4 years building this. We've missed birthdays, anniversaries, and a lot of sleep. But we did it because we knew it could help people. The word we slipped out naturally. She didn't say I. She never said I, not because she didn't want to. Because she knew how Marcus operated. Any I that wasn't attached to him was a threat. But in that moment, she wasn't thinking about him. She was thinking about her team. About Ravi's spaghetti code wizardry, about Lena patching UX wireframes at midnight with a newborn crying in the background. She started to feel, dare she say it, proud. The producer held up a cue card. 3 minutes left. Sarah smiled again. Well, Jennifer, it sounds like Infinia's in good hands. Final question, what do you hope users feel the first time they open it? Jennifer didn't hesitate. Relief, she said. I want them to feel like someone finally thought about their day before telling them how to work. I want them to feel seen. Sarah paused for half a beat as if digesting the honesty, then nodded slowly. Beautifully said. Jennifer smiled back, and for the first time in years, it reached her eyes. The red light above the camera blinked to signal the final segment. And still, no word from Marcus. She let herself believe, just briefly, that maybe he was watching and realizing she wasn't a liability. Maybe, just maybe, he was proud too. It's called adaptive logic flow, Jennifer said, her eyes sparkling like a woman introducing her firstborn to the world. And it's probably the most human thing we've ever coded. Sarah leaned forward slightly, sensing a peak. Tell us more. Jennifer didn't even need the prompt. She was already there, already soaring. So the system watches your workflow, how you assign, reprioritize, cancel, or delegate tasks. And then it adapts. It starts anticipating you. Like if Mondays are chaos and Fridays are dead, it'll reroute your timelines to give you breathing room without you even asking. It's intuitive, it's empathetic, and that's when it hit. A sharp, cruel voice crackling into her right ear, slicing through her momentum like a scalpel dipped in vinegar. You're making it about you? You're done. Clean out your desk. Marcus. She flinched. It was barely visible, just a blink, a half-second inhale, the kind of twitch only people trained to notice everything would catch. Unfortunately, she was sitting 6 feet from Sarah Whitmore and 30 inches from a camera broadcasting in 4K to the entire goddamn country. Jennifer's mouth was still half open, her thought trailing like a balloon with a slashed string. She could hear herself saying, and it's, but the rest never arrived. Her heartbeat roared in her throat. Every cell in her body froze like a deer realizing the headlights weren't stopping. Her pupils dilated. The camera zoomed in for the highlight moment, the golden clip where the visionary behind Infinia explains her genius. Instead, world got front row seats to Jennifer's complete unraveling. Her eyes darted sideways, not at anything, just away, away from the moment, away from the invisible blade Marcus had just plunged between her ribs. The triumphant gleam vanished from her face like a light switched off during a power outage. Clean out your desk. The sentence echoed. It wasn't a metaphor. It wasn't a warning. It was a sentence, a judgment. Corporate execution whispered through a $29 earpiece during what was supposed to be the biggest moment of her career. And he'd done it live, on purpose. Jennifer sat perfectly still, even as her body screamed to run, to cry, to scream "how dare you" into the camera like some Greek tragedy heroine. But she didn't, because that's not how you're allowed to break when you're a woman in tech. You break quietly. neatly, preferably in a restroom stall or in your car in the parking garage. Jennifer? Sarah said gently, her voice lowering. That did it. Jennifer snapped back into her body, lips pressing into a tight line. Her brain scrambled for the words she'd dropped like broken porcelain, but they wouldn't come, not now, not with Marcus's words still poisoning her ear canal. She swallowed hard. She started, voice thin as tissue paper. I'm sorry, I just lost my place for a second. Sarah's expression changed fractionally, from interviewer to human. She nodded slowly and adjusted in her seat, turning slightly toward the camera, giving Jennifer a breath, a space, a lifeline. But the damage was done. Millions of people just watched a star dim in real time, saw a confident woman transformed into something raw and uncertain. And Jennifer knew that's exactly what Marcus wanted. He couldn't let her shine, not unsupervised, not unscripted, not visible, and so in front of the world he silenced her. With 7 words. She sat there, her palms sweating, her mouth dry, pretending everything was fine while the wreckage inside her piled up. And somewhere, in a corner office 3 floors above hers, a man in a designer suit probably leaned back in his ergonomic chair and smiled. Sarah Whitmore had interviewed presidents, war veterans, and oil execs slicker than Teflon in a rainstorm, but the look on Jennifer's face, that glassy, haunted stare, that was something else, that was real. Not nerves, not stage fright. It was the look of someone who had just been stabbed mid-sentence and told to smile through it. She pivoted instantly. Gone was the upbeat tempo of the tech segment. Gone was the rehearsed banter and the cue cards in the producer's hand. Sarah leaned in just slightly, lowering her voice so subtly it felt like a whisper across a bar booth. It seems, she said carefully, there's a bigger story here. A pause. Then the words that would crack everything open tell us. Jennifer didn't move, the air around her felt thick, electric. The silence was deafening, every person in the studio held their breath, the crew frozen behind cameras and monitors like statues caught mid-blink. Inside Jennifer's chest, humiliation thrashed like a feral animal, chewing its way through her ribs. But beneath that, deep in her gut, another emotion had ignited, one far more dangerous. Rage, not the messy, screaming kind, the cold, sharp kind, the kind that didn't melt down it planned, it remembered. She thought of the late nights, the missed birthdays, the migraines, the time she had walked Marcus through a basic integration at 3 a.m. because he didn't understand what a webhook was and blamed the system crash on rogue data. She thought of every team member whose contributions were erased, every young woman who joined the company bright-eyed and left hollow. She thought of the time Marcus stood at a tech conference stage and called her Jennifer Lynn, or is it Lynn? My bad, while taking credit for her feature. And now this, fired like a dog in public, on air, in a whisper meant to erase her. Jennifer took a deep breath, her shoulders straightened, and she looked directly into the camera. Yes, she said, her voice didn't shake, it rang. Yes, there is, the studio was silent. Even Sarah's eyebrows lifted a fraction. My name is Jennifer Lynn. I was the lead developer of Infinia. I wrote the architecture. I designed the adaptive logic. My team built every single feature you just heard about. A pause. Jennifer's hands trembled just slightly, but she didn't stop. Couldn't, and I was just fired. Live on your show, by the CEO of my company. Gasps didn't echo in studios. The soundproofing swallowed everything, but you could feel it. Crew shifting, the ripple moving through earpieces to the control room. Producers scrambling to decide whether to cut or lean in. Sarah didn't blink. She kept her eyes locked on Jennifer. Do you want to keep going? Jennifer nodded slowly. Yes, I do. The producer offstage made a cutting gesture, rapid. But Sarah didn't move. She sat perfectly still, the corners of her mouth twitching in what might have been the birth of a smirk. She smelled a story, a big one. Jennifer swallowed, heat rising in her chest. I have nothing left to lose, she said. And just like that, a new path appeared before her. Not lit, not smooth, but real. She was no longer a corporate pawn. She was the whistleblower, the one who didn't break in private but burned in public. And for the first time in her entire career, her story belonged to her. The moment the segment cut, the room snapped into chaos. Producers swarmed like ants on a dropped popsicle, earpieces screaming, hands waving, someone yelling get legal on the line. While Sarah stood completely still, her microphone still hot, her expression unreadable. Jennifer just sat there, blinking like she'd been tossed from a moving train. Cut to commercial, someone barked. The screen above her head went dark. Sarah turned to her with a voice like velvet over steel. That took guts. Jennifer nodded, her ears ringing, her throat raw. Her hands, now resting in her lap, felt foreign, like they belonged to someone else, someone dangerous, someone who had just lit a corporate fuse and walked away without flinching. A production assistant tried to usher her offstage. She stood on autopilot. Her heels felt too high, her skin too tight, like she was wearing the life of someone else and it didn't fit anymore. By the time she reached the studio lobby, her phone was vibrating nonstop. 37 unread texts, 12 missed calls, notifications stacked like a digital avalanche. She opened one text from Ravi, holy shit, Jen, what just happened? Another from Lena, we are all behind you. You just did the bravest thing I've ever seen. And then her LinkedIn, already exploding, posts, shares, clips. One tagged her with the caption, woman fires back, lead dev fired live for telling the truth. A 7-second video of her declaration had already hit 200,000 views. By the time she reached the sidewalk, it was pushing 500,000. She was a trending hashtag before she even reached the Uber queue. She stood on the curb, watching the city blur around her. The air felt different now, less oxygen, more consequence. Her phone buzzed again, this time from an unknown number. No name, just the message, your badge access has been revoked. HR will be in touch. A second message followed, per your NDA. Any further disclosure may result in legal action. No salutation, no signature. Jennifer looked at the words, then she screenshot them, saved them to a folder, and renamed it Evidence. By the time she got home, her work laptop had already shut itself down. VPN access denied. Cloud files inaccessible. Her Innovate Inc. email returned with an automated bounce. This account no longer exists. It hit her all at once. Not gently, not with mercy. Life she left that morning, the job, the identity, the illusion of security was gone. Wiped, redacted. She stood in her doorway, eyes scanning the familiar mess of her apartment, the dying succulents, the laundry still on the chair, the whiteboard filled with diagrams and late-night thoughts about product iterations that would never see light again. Jennifer didn't cry, she didn't throw things. She opened her laptop, her personal laptop, and started building her case. She pulled out her backup drive. She found every email Marcus ever CC'd her on and never read. Every presentation she ghostwrote that was signed with his name. Every Slack message where she'd been dismissed, condescended to, or straight up stolen from. She opened a folder titled Late Night Dev Notes, where she'd saved screenshots of the original codebase and architecture drafts she created at 2:00 a.m. while Marcus was God knows where, probably schmoozing investors over stake he'd expense and stories he didn't write. And the texts. Oh, the texts. Marcus didn't email when he wanted something shady. He texted, informal, sloppy. Can we bend this feature for the VC demo? Don't mention X, it'll freak out compliance. Can you remove credit from that dashboard before Monday? Board presentation. She pulled them all, labeled each. Dated every request. The silence of her apartment deepened as the hours passed. And Jennifer sat in the middle of it, lit only by the glow of her screen and the cold, methodical rhythm of someone who had lost everything, and realized she was finally free to burn it all down. Jennifer didn't sleep for 3 days. She didn't need to. She was running on something stronger than caffeine or cortisol, something colder, heavier, more precise. Revenge wasn't a fire anymore. It had become a clock. Every tick brought her closer to the detonation. The third morning, as her eyes burned and her inbox overflowed, a new message arrived. Subject line, we should talk. I know what Marcus did. The sender, Evelyn Vance. Jennifer stared at the name for a full minute. Evelyn was the CEO of Argent Systems, one of Innovate Inc.'s fiercest competitors. Silicon Valley royalty, the kind of woman who smiled through SEC audits and once launched a data product so airtight the Department of Defense tried to buy it off the books. Jennifer hesitated, then clicked. No recruiters, no PR fluff, just one line, not offering you a job. I'm offering you an exit strategy. They met the next day in a private lounge above a boutique hotel, where the windows overlooked the city like a judgment. Evelyn wore black on black and smelled like old money and scorched bridges. She didn't waste time. I hated Marcus before it was trendy, she said, swirling her espresso. He tanked a deal I had within NoTech 3 years ago by lying about your scalability numbers. And now he's stupid enough to fire the woman holding his entire product together, live on television? I couldn't have written a better gift. Jennifer blinked. You're not afraid of getting dragged into this. I want to get dragged into this, Evelyn replied. That man has violated 6 labor laws, 3 ethics codes, and God knows how many NDAs. You want to expose him? I can help you do it legally, loudly, and in a way that sticks. By nightfall, Jennifer had a legal team, not just lawyers, assassins in heels, contract specialists, NDA dismantlers, PR strategists who'd worked with whistleblowers and CEOs clawing back reputations from the underworld. Jennifer learned quickly. She learned how to phrase things for maximum protection, how to weaponize screenshots, how to plant her story with 3 different reporters without violating confidentiality. She was taught how to leak, not recklessly, but surgically. And that's when the second revelation hit. Buried in her old files, deep inside a legacy doc from the prototype days, she found a name she hadn't seen in years. Proposal based on H. Dalka's modular sandbox pitch. Dalka, Hannah Dalka, a brilliant systems designer Marcus fired 5 years ago. Rumor was she'd filed a harassment claim, then vanished. Jennifer had been an intern back then, too new to ask questions, too afraid to make waves. She looked deeper. Old Slack logs, archived emails, internal notes redlined by legal. The deeper she dug, the more the foundation cracked. Marcus hadn't just stolen her work. He'd built Infinia on stolen bones. Hannah's sandbox framework, Jennifer's adaptive logic, Lena's UX strategies, all wrapped in Marcus's name like wrapping paper around a stolen painting. Jennifer sat with that for a long time, then she called Evelyn. This isn't about credit anymore, she said. It's about justice and legacy. Good, Evelyn said, because I just booked you a follow-up. Prime time with Sarah Whitmore. Jennifer paused. You're ready? Evelyn added. Now burn the whole temple down. So Jennifer got ready. Not with PowerPoint decks or talking points, but with timestamps, contracts, emails, diagrams. Every stolen idea, every silenced voice, every manipulated number, every sleight of hand he used to rise. By the end of the week, she no longer looked like a product manager. She looked like a problem. Problem Marcus Thorne would never see coming until it was live and irreversible. The lights were hotter this time, brighter, hungrier, but Jennifer didn't flinch. She sat in the same seat as before, only now her posture wasn't nervous. It was deliberate, anchored. Her suit was sharper. Hair clean, pinned back, eyes forward. This wasn't the girl who blinked her way through betrayal. This was the woman who walked through the fire with a briefcase full of gasoline. Across from her, Sarah Whitmore offered a small nod, a private kind of respect. And then the countdown began again. 5, 4, 3, Sarah smiled into the lens. Good evening. Tonight we revisit a story that sparked national debate about ethics, ownership, and the human cost of innovation. You'll remember Jennifer Lynn, former product manager at Innovate Inc., whose sudden on-air firing 2 weeks ago ignited a firestorm. Joining us live via remote is Innovate Inc. As CEO, Marcus Thorne. Marcus, thank you for being here. On the monitor to Jennifer's left, Marcus appeared, oozing that practiced arrogance like a wet dog trailing cologne. His tie was too tight, his jaw clenched just enough to look rehearsed. Happy to clarify the company's position, he said, voice smoother than it had a right to be. Sarah nodded. Let's begin. The first 10 minutes were exactly what everyone expected. Marcus called the situation unfortunate. That Jennifer misrepresented her role, claimed her allegations were deeply personal grievances inflated for attention. He smiled with his teeth but not his eyes. Jennifer waited. She let him dig the hole himself. When Sarah finally turned to her and said, Jennifer, how do you respond to Marcus's claims that your accusations are baseless? She exhaled once, opened her folder, and began to turn pages. Page 1, a side-by-side breakdown of Infinia's development timeline, with metadata logs showing her as the original creator of the adaptive logic system, 8 months before Marcus claimed he conceptualized it. Page 2, Slack messages from Marcus instructing her to remove attribution tags from demo decks. One message simply read, no one needs to see your name on this, just get it done. Page 3, a direct text from Marcus, timestamped 2:11 a.m. on a Sunday. Take your little ideas and put my initials on the repo. I'm not fighting the board about credit again. The screen behind her flickered to show each one as she spoke, her voice steady, clinical. The studio was dead quiet, save for the scratching sound of Marcus's career hitting the bottom of the ocean. And then she dropped the kill shot. I also built in a hidden backdoor feature to Infinia, an internal diagnostic tracer that tags every module by author during integration. It's invisible to end users but fully trackable. I activated it yesterday. She turned to the monitor. The code proves that over 86% of the functional core of Infinia was authored by myself and my team. Less than 3% came from Marcus Thorne, mostly branding. Marcus blinked, then stammered, then vanished, his feed suddenly cut due to technical difficulties. Sarah didn't even try to fake surprise, but Jennifer wasn't done. One last thing, she said, reaching for the final page. It was a printed email from 5 years ago from Hannah Dalka, dated 2 weeks before her unexplained departure. The subject line read, Sandbox Prototype Pitch Preliminary Design. Attached was the original framework, the one Marcus had discovered, the one Jennifer had unknowingly inherited and refined. This, Jennifer said, holding the email up, is where Infinia began, not in a boardroom, not in Marcus's head, but in a quiet corner of this company under a woman he silenced and erased. Sarah let the silence breathe. Then finally, what do you want now, Jennifer? Jennifer's eyes didn't waver. I want Innovate Inc. investigated. I want NDAs reconsidered. I want women who build empires to stop being treated like the scaffolding. And for you, Jennifer inhaled. Then let the truth land softly. I already won. I got my name back. The next morning, the SEC launched a formal inquiry. Marcus stepped down within the week. Innovate Inc.'s stock plummeted. Hannah Dalka's name trended alongside Jennifer's, and Sarah's follow-up segment became the most-watched tech journalism piece of the decade. Jennifer didn't go back to product management. She became something else, an advocate, a lightning rod, a woman with a flame-proof voice who'd walked through betrayal, lit a match, and dared the world to blink first. And this time, no one dared to look away. You're the real MVPs of the office jungle. Thanks for watching. Smash that subscribe button, or the coffee pot might just forget your next brew.